Right. Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today for the third and final of our three lightning webinars on our housing repairs online. I wanted to do just a quick few introductions to who we are so that you can, so you can find out who we are. So I'm David Eaton. I'm a client partner at Tech. I'll hand over to Fraser really quickly.
Morning or afternoon even, everybody. Yeah, I'm Fraser Trickett, client partner, similar role to David's. Just to give some background as well for questions later on, I was also involved in local government for over 20 years. So if there's any questions around how this perhaps fits in, etc., or existing processes or anything around the background research to this, feel free to ask away.
That's a good point. As we're recording the session, we'll leave questions until the end once the recording's finished. But you feel free to ask any throughout the webinar. You can use the chat bar, the chat facility there as well. Now, I'm going to run through a few slides. That's the boring bit before I hand over to Fraser, which is the more exciting bit. I thought I'd start with our mission, which is really simple at Maytech. We want to positively impact the future of the country by using technology to improve society, because we think the software in local government is broken with exorbitant contracts, bloated products, failed needs. There has to be a better way. Now, we want to build disruptive new products that solve the shared challenges for local government. So you're finding the same challenges whichever council you may be at. And we want to free councils from the burden of vendor lock-in. And we want to provide affordable products that we can build once and we can ship everywhere to deliver real value. And our initial focus is in housing. So we've carried out extensive user research. And when we look at how repair reporting is handled around the country, we can really see evidence of these legacy systems that have been built without the consideration for the resident. And there are three specific observations which are important to you today. Often, there is no online provision to log repairs, which means an inconvenient call for the resident and delays or long time periods for a fix. Often, there is provision, but it's poor, with clunky, inaccessible and confusing web forms behind logins, and pictorial triaging, which offers a poor user experience and can't be accessed easily on mobile devices. Or if there is an online tool, it produces an email that still needs to be handled and rekeyed, requiring a heavy manual process for officers with lots of back and forth to book appointments. And some of those may sound familiar to you today. So that's why we've developed our SaaS online housing repairs. It's built on a user-centered design. It features an intuitive and easy-to-use interface for residents, offering an issue diagnosis that allows for the easy triaging of non-urgent reports. And being multi-tenanted, it's easy and quick to adopt, bringing a lower entry point cost with seamless upgrades. It's designed to deliver value from day one, helping councils achieve savings through channel shift and bring efficiencies for officers. So our online repairs conforms to the highest data security and interoperability standards, whilst meeting accessibility guidelines, being easily accessible to all users across a range of devices. We don't want users just to have the latest new shiny technology to be able to use it. And our user research tells us that forcing users to log in to make a non-urgent repair causes unnecessary friction, and that shifts residents away from the self-serve channel back onto the phones or other traditional reporting routes that take longer with higher handling costs. It's really important that residents are reassured that they're reporting through safe websites. And so we've built ours along using the GDS design styles and patterns. And this allows for a customizable template with familiar branding and council colors. To create a works order or to show customers live appointment dates, we integrate with housing management and scheduling systems, allowing data to flow seamlessly. You need to have your data to be able to get to the right place. And to give councils the confidence and reassurance that help is on hand for a service area that's under tremendous demand, we offer a comprehensive support wrapper. And our commitment is continual product development with all feature releases included in the annual fees, supported by research and feedback with our clients and their residents, allowing us to keep ahead of changes in user expectations or perhaps any legislation that comes in as well. So, for example, in June, we released communal repairs to complement residential, and we'll continue to develop this based on some of the findings that we made through our user research. There's a little bit more about that on our roadmap slide at the end of the webinar after the actual demo that we'll take you through. But it's worth noting here that what we've built for communal also supports leaseholder repairs as well. So enough of the boring slides. I'm going to hand you over to Fraser, who's now going to share his screen, and he's going to take you through the demo. Over to you, Fraser.
Cheers, David. Well, wow, the promise of being exciting. I've got a lot to live up to here, but I'll see what I can do on this. Hopefully that screen has come through for people now. Is that a full screen, or is it just the repairs online that you can see?
It's not in full screen. If you can, yeah, we can see the back with your calendar and stuff, so you can.
Let me just try that again then. I don't think that did as I wanted it to there. Hopefully that one's coming through a little bit better now. I was a bit happy. Perfect. So, yeah, this is our test environment that we're looking at on here. Just to replay a couple of bits that David had said, in that what you're seeing on here is designed out the GDS toolkit. So it gives everybody that kind of familiar look and feel. Residents are more comfortable with this log and builds that trust that this is a real valid service that they're using. As David also mentioned, we don't enforce a login around here. And the reason for that is that, as also mentioned, this is built on user needs. And what we found after talking to over 100 real council residents is that the number one barrier for them to using existing online council services is that they're forced to input a username and password. And we also know that if a customer rings by alternative channels and rings up, there isn't that same level of validation done on there. So we're putting that trust back into the users over here. Just to allay any fears for where this has been live and for authorities that have been running this kind of principle. Prior to our product, we haven't actually had any experiences around anybody creating rogue repair types without that lack of logging in here. So it's kind of a fallacy in terms of thinking that people will be creating lots of different repairs to cause chaos with an authority. However, as we also mentioned, this is a secure product, so things like denial of service are monitored in here, so that should anybody try to use it for that route. Right, so now into the exciting stuff. We've landed on this homepage where a resident can request a repair, and because there's no login, this can also be used by own members of staff or perhaps family members and people that are in sheltered accommodation, wardens, etc. So what we try and do at this first point is just call out for emergency repairs. We don't want them to be using these services. If they actually have something like a gas leak, it's safer that they ring the authority or the emergency services. So when I click on this start now, it does this check on here, so that if I say I can smell gas, it gives me the number 2 ring and also starts to call out some advice and guidance on there as well. But for the purposes of this demo, I'm going to say it's something else. As you can see, we have the ability to log communal repairs through this portal, opening that up for the use to leaseholders as well, so that they can use this tool. For this initial pass-through, I'm going to say it's not a communal repair. Now we get to the first bit of integration. So we ask the resident to put in a postcode that can look back to your housing management system, or you can provide us with a list of the properties that you want to be able to allow repairs on. It could be, for example, that you want to exclude things that are under right to buy and not allow residents to log repairs on those. So yeah, that kind of work can be done with you. So I've got my postcode in here, brings up the list of properties. And then we jump into the triaging process of the repairs. What we've done on here is, after lots of testing with real users, people with different accessibility and digital literacy needs, it's come down to that actually the best way and easiest way for residents to report a repair is using this textual process. It's nice and easy to use and understand, but also translates really well for people that need in other languages, and also integrates well with screen readers, etc. So we've got a nice simple process. So the resident first off picks their room. So I'm going to say it's a problem in the kitchen. They then get this next tier that's a higher level grouping in here. If I say it's something like damp and mold and it was caused by a leak, we still class that as an emergency. So give them their details to run through that. And these are customizable by each authority as well about these endpoints. I'm going to say I've got a problem with the sink area, and then we've got the elements that are reportable underneath here. As part of the config and setup, you can configure these endpoints to map to a schedule of rate that's relevant to your work. Because we know that there's over 2,000, authorities can sometimes create their own, etc. You can configure these in here. But ultimately, the SOR that's selected at the end of this point is used for the further integration to get the appointment time, length, cost, and the relevant trade. So I guess it's a problem with pipe work on here. The resident gets the ability to enter some text, hopefully a little bit better and more detailed than I'm putting in on here, and they give you some guidance around the type of thing we're looking for. And they can also upload a photo that can be shared back to your systems as well. So I'm going to pick a photo. Don't know if you could see that screen there, but that was popping up my browser. It's worth calling out at this point that this is fully responsive design. So we do know that residents 70% of the time are accessing services from a mobile phone. All of this scales back, and they can just use that real-time camera feature on a smartphone as well. So I'm going to upload that photo. It's been successfully uploaded on there. And then the authority can help that use that information as part of the diagnosis process. So this first number that's called out for on here is utilised if we need to call back for information around the repair itself. And the resident gets the option to have a receipt sent to them. That can be used to either send it via text message or via email. I still keep going to put .gov.uk on the end of that, still trying to break that habit after 20 years. If I continue on there, this is where the scheduler rate has now been passed to whichever scheduling system you have, and is pulling back real-time information for the relevant trade for the appropriate amount of time to complete this work, and displays the repair slots that are available. You can see Saturday and Sunday are showing on here. Again, this is customizable and is just running off our test data on here at the moment. What we can also do is utilize, if the scheduling software has logic built into it for showing only green appointments, i.e. where it's more effective, then we can leverage that functionality as well so that it's only displaying those. So as a resident, I can pick the time that's most convenient for me, and I can request more days as well. So I'm going to go for Tuesday, 24th of October. I then get a nice overview of all the information that I've entered, and I get the ability to go back and change and update these if I need to as well. At that point, I'm going to request my repair. That is then triggered off a couple of bits of integration behind the scenes. One is to create the works order in the housing management system, passing that job number through to the scheduling integration, and actually booking that appointment slot in the trade person's diary. It's also triggered out that email or SMS, depending on the information that was entered to the resident. And they have this reference number in here should they need to make any amendments and speak to the authority in the future about this. What we have found is that by sending that receipt, is that the resident is more informed about the process. On a telephone, after that phone's been put down, it's reliant quite commonly on the resident writing that down or putting it into a calendar, whereas through this method, they have that thing to refer back to. And it has, in early stages of our findings, started to drive down missed appointments because that resident has that better information to hand. I'm just going to see if my emails come through and if I can share that. Sorry, all these screens. So hopefully you can see that reply on there. I can't get to the hide banner. So here's that information from the product, letting me know this appointment date and time. So the resident's left with that information, which is great. They can go around that process again and report another issue as well. I'm just going to show very quickly the communal repair process. So I'm just going to enter my different postcode for that. Again, this is integrating with the housing management system, or flat file if you'd rather provide that. Brings back only relevant addresses that are communal areas. And that this is a different triage system in here, but uses those same principles. So I'm going to say that there's a problem in the corridor or lift, and that it is a problem with the lift, and that it's out of order. That you can see on here that there's an additional step where the resident gets the ability to describe the problem on here in terms of the location. They get that ability to upload the photo. Just for the speed purposes on here, I'm going to skip this step for now. They get that same functionality here of providing a contact number should we need to get in touch around the repair, and also the receipt information. And the summary information is displayed. At that repair point on there, we don't integrate with the scheduling software because quite commonly these elements are passed out to a third party, such as good cases within lift and fire alarms, etc. So this is passed through as an email to the contact centre for them to be able to book this information in. But we can look at doing integration if need be through this route. And at that point, I'll stop sharing and hand back to you, David.
Yeah, thanks, Fraser. I think there's just one more slide we're going to share, a couple more slides we're going to share. I think it's important to let you know that we are, so our housing repairs is live with Redbridge Council. We're just onboarding Camden right now. Different systems that we integrate with both councils, of course, and we are talking to lots of other councils as well, which is great. I wanted just to give you, like I say, 2 more slides. Here's a really quick sneak preview of our development roadmap. And I think it's important to say that we're taking an agile approach to our product development, and that's driven by user research, feedback, and suggestions from our customer to help us prioritize our focus. And that user research has been something that we've talked about quite often actually throughout this webinar. So on our roadmap here, you can see some of our initial thoughts. So we know, as we've already explained, that the quality of fault information that councils receive is limited by poor reporting processes. So we want to empower residents, they are after all your eyes and ears on the ground, by improving the data that they send you. So uploading photos helps improve the diagnosis accuracy. That leads to speedier resolution times and increased first fixes. And Fraser's shown you this already. We should be in a position to release this very soon. There's just a couple of things we're looking at now around P2. We already integrate with scheduling systems to choose live appointment dates, but obviously resident circumstances change. And so we'll be adding the ability to reschedule or cancel appointments online, and therefore reduce that demand on contact centres. Following our communal repairs research, there were a couple of areas we want to start designing. Firstly, offering residents a view of already reported issues to reduce duplicate reports. That's a big thing. It's a big thing that threw up from the research. And secondly, keeping residents up to date about the progress of an issue, close that feedback loop, and take away the demand on call centres. So we're going to be looking at those 2 areas in the next column over the next 3 months. And then further out, you can see in the other column there, we'll be looking to prioritise researching areas, for example, chatbots, resident satisfaction, AI-assisted diagnosis. But again, that column, the items in that column there are very much led by what we think we're finding in our own research, but also what our clients are saying to us they want us to focus on. So onto the final slide, which is basically the end of our session. Now, we'd love to hear your thoughts on what you've seen or heard, or anything that you think we're missing, because you may well have undertaken your own research for your own repairs, and you think, well, actually, you're missing that. There's a big gap over there. I think it's really worth pointing out right now that we've also conducted extensive research on voids and how we can reduce the relet times for vacant properties to increase the revenue for councils, bring that revenue forwards for them, and also, but really importantly, get residents back into their homes quicker. So we've got about 10 minutes left of the webinar session available. If there's any questions you have, I don't know if any have come through, Anna, through the chat, or you might well have some questions now. So over to you.
Now, I would like to go through some of the questions that we got asked in a few of the previous live webinars, if that's okay. Fraser, would you be able to tell me what work has been done to make sure housing repairs meets the needs of end users?
Yeah, of course, Anna. So what we've done in this area is engaged with real tenants. And by that, I'm talking about people that actually live in council properties that have to log repairs day to day in their properties. We've engaged with different spectrums of people with digital literacy needs, people with accessibility needs, and people from different cultures and backgrounds. What we've done with that information is feed all of that into the design of the product and made those iterations based on that genuine feedback from those residents.
Thank you. That makes sense. Another question, Fraser, that we got was, why doesn't housing repairs require users to log in? Is it related to the needs of end users?
Yeah, exactly that. So the number one frustration and friction point from residents for accessing current council services, with the over 100 that we spoke to, was that having to remember a username and password to log a repair was the number one barrier to them doing that online.
Thank you. Makes sense. David, can you tell me why are SaaS products a good choice for local authorities? And related to that, why is housing repairs a SaaS product?
Yes, absolutely. So we think that SaaS products are good choices for local authorities because they are easy to adopt and they're easy to roll off of. They're very easy to deploy and they're affordable as well, because we know that councils are really suffering tremendously with finance.
Finally, Fraser, last question. How customizable is the product?
So there's two real key elements that are customizable by you as the authority, and that is the colors and the CSS on here. So you can do things like your own logo, own branding on there. More importantly is the triage system. You can add in your own schedule of rates to each of those endpoints. There's over 2,000 schedule of rates in the NatFed book, and councils quite often create their own versions of that too. So all of those elements are customizable. I think it is worth calling out that we don't allow customization of the elements that we have tested with users. So the language and tone in there it is part of the reason that we control that and deploy that through SaaS, so that you are always benefiting from that latest feedback from residents.
Perfect. Thank you both. That's all for today.